Welcome, everyone, to this session of the Administrator Issues and Updates on January 21st, 2025. County Administrator Schmidt, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Online, Commissioner West. Commissioner West, are you there? We cannot, all right, he's online, but we can't hear him. One more time, Commissioner West.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. In the room, Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Fireside.
Here.
Commissioner Savas is on his way. He's right here behind me. He's here. Commissioner Savas, you're here, right? Present. Thank you. Chair Roberts.
Here. And thank you, Administrator Schmidt. Would you please introduce the first agenda item for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair. First, Main Street Courthouse, request for economic interest update. I'd like Nancy Bush, County Operating Officer, and Mayor McGriff from Oregon City. Would you please come to the table as well? So, Commissioners, last December, the prior Board of Commissioners directed staff to move forward on a request for economic interest from folks who would like to potentially take over the current Main Street Courthouse in downtown Oregon City. Mayor McGriff and I have been speaking, I know she's spoken to many of you as well, Commissioners, about a proposal to potentially pause on this request. So Chair Roberts has allowed Mayor McGriff to say a few words to the board, but first, Nancy, would you please give a general update to the board on how we've got to this decision to date, and then Mayor McGriff will speak.
Yeah, absolutely. So good morning,
Good morning.
Commissioners. So we, late last year, around September, the board requested that we put together a committee that had members from Oregon City, some members from the public, as well as some members from here, and talk about the disposition of the courthouse and what we may or may not be able to do, want to do. We talked about, a lot about, economic development and what that means for Oregon City, and the understanding of how important this is, not only to the county, but also to Oregon City. So on the committee, it was Chair Tootie Smith, Commissioner Martha Schrader, Mayor Denise McGriff, downtown Juliana Allen from the Downtown Oregon City Alliance, Victoria Menig from Oregon City Chamber of Commerce, Jeff Schaefer from Oregon City Business Alliance, James Graham, City of Oregon City, and Laura Edmonds from Clackamas County. During those conversations, we put all the meeting minutes together, which you do have in your packet, and then we also had a recommendation that came out of that group, which is what the RFEI, which is the request for expressions of interest. That's how we developed that and put that together from those recommendations. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Great. And good morning, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Denise McGriff, City of Oregon City. I have the pleasure of being the mayor of the city. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I know it's unusual for you to allow people to speak, but I think that you are all aware of the city's interest and partnership with you with regard to the Main Street Courthouse. As Nancy stated, this is a very important project and proposal and a building that is in the middle of our downtown. And right now, downtown is thriving and doing quite well. And by the way, it is the Downtown Oregon City Association, not the Alliance. So DOCA is their initials. They've been doing a great job in promoting businesses, bringing more businesses in, and we want to see that continue. The courthouse is basically like the pearl in the middle of the necklace for downtown. And not only, as Nancy stated, is it an economic development engine for the downtown, for the city, for the county, and our region. We have two asks. One is that we would like to request that we work with you in a partnership to separate Liberty Plaza. So I don't think any of you were here. Maybe, Martha, you were here. So in 2004, we worked with County Administrator Mark Gonzalez and the city to deal with the demolition of the Liberty Theater, which is why the plaza is named such. One of the things that we committed to each other is that this area would be an open space for the community. If it's part of the RFEI, we kind of lose that opportunity. It's long been our desire to have that as a city park. The city has generously and will pay for all the costs for a lot line adjustment or any other legal documents that are required to make that happen. We will be happy to work with somebody who buys the building or wants to redevelop so that they could actually use it as part of their proposal for the open space as well, but we would like this for the community. The second request is that we would like to have the city involved in the review and selection process based on the committee recommendation that you just heard Nancy reiterate again. So those are basically the two requests. I did go back into our files, and I think I did process the demolition permit way back when for the Liberty Theater. So that's it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. And I know Gary's lights on. Gary Schmidt?
Commissioner West has a question when you're ready for questions.
Okay. Commissioner West, go ahead.
You're on mute, Commissioner West. You're still on mute, Commissioner West.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Sorry about
Go
that.
ahead.
Mayor McGriff, are you here on your behalf? Are you representing the city of Oregon City?
I am representing the city, Commissioner West.
Okay. It was my understanding that you guys were not so close to consensus on this issue regarding the courthouse. And that I think, Chair, you also received a letter of public records from a developer who's interested in this process to proceed, as the committee has already approved to move forward. The public process is already done, meetings already happened to proceed with allowing a bid to go forward through the RFEI process. So I was just curious, Mayor, if you were here on behalf of the entire city council, or and I think the public should know that that letter from a potential developer is public at this time.
I didn't quite get all of that. Can you do the translation? I think I heard him say that.
He was asking, do you have a formal position of your city commission that you're speaking today? And then second, and the board has heard from at least one developer who has a proposal that may actually benefit what the city's looking for, but that would only happen if we went forward on this process.
I have authorization from the city manager and the commissioners, not formally, but they are, again, this is something we've been working on for over 2 years, to talk about Liberty Plaza with not only you, Administrator Schmidt, but with the commissioners that are still currently in office. And this has been, it's in our master plan. We would like to have the park. We would like to have it as a park and an open space, and the city is willing to take on that responsibility. I know that Chair Smith said that we hadn't talked about it, but I beg to differ, we did. It was the first thing I brought up when we started talking about the courthouse. It's sort of an easy fix. I'm not aware of any developer who has contacted you or the city with regard to that particular issue. So it's just that particular issue. And again, I wouldn't have authorization to say that we will pay for all the costs if I hadn't gone through talking to our folks. So that's where we are, Commissioner West.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Salvis?
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor McGriff, for being here today. Thanks, Nancy, for the presentation. It's been a little bit of a journey. I mean, I sit here today knowing, and Mayor McGriff, the last time you and I spoke, making sure that in the agreement for the process moving forward, that Liberty Plaza is specifically called out as potential, that something might be retained. So any developer looking at that would factor that into whatever proposal they put forth. And as I also understand it, nothing forecloses the city from putting anything on the table as well. And I think the question is that I've been trying to tease out here for at least the last several months as members of the community, as members of the commission, your colleagues, is, what do you all want to, what do you think about how this could come together? What could be the future of the property or the building or whatever it may be? And I sit here today with, I won't say uncertainty, but it seems as though that there's not a clear, and I haven't met the new commissioner, but I'm hearing just over the period of time a lot of different things and not really one. I think I can say, well, I've heard from Mayor McGriff, and I know where she sits. I heard from, over the period of time, members, again, the community and the commission as well. So with that inconsistency, uncertainty about, the future of that, I think one thing I've heard very consistently from everyone is that there's no harm in proceeding forward with the process laid out. And I think the committee that we all put together jointly, came up with that recommendation to go. So I personally, at this moment, see no harm in just seeing what's out there for proposals. We're not, again, it doesn't preclude anything. It does not foreclose any opportunities. Everything's on the table. I kind of see the value of that, and I would love, I think I mentioned this to Chair Roberts, I would love to, maybe we have a joint meeting with the county commission and the city commission to talk this through. I think I see value in that, and/or having a town hall that members of the business community and some of the vested owners of those properties, as well as in the businesses on Main Street, have a voice as well. And that's my concern, is that this gives that. I haven't talked to anyone who's a developer. I know of no development. Well, I know of developers, but no one who's got, that I know of submitting a proposal or specified any particular interest. So I sit here unbiased, but I want to do what's in the best interest of the entire community. And that's what I want to make sure. And I think maybe a joint meeting with the two commissions and a town hall to make sure that again, the business community and the vested property owners along Main Street all have a say. I want to make the best decision I can for the economics of Oregon City.
I appreciate that. We are, the Downtown Oregon City Association is having a business social today, this afternoon at City Hall, and one of the topics that I will be discussing with those who are attending is the courthouse. Getting more feedback. As you can well imagine, I get stopped quite frequently, as you all do, and people, I will say there's two things that they are talking to me about in the last 3 months: fire access and the courthouse. So there's not a whole lot I can do about, getting new routes out of Oregon City if there happens to be another wildfire, but, the emergency services folks have plans in place. They have an emergency plan. They've done all of the things that you can possibly do to figure out, how we get out. And I said, that's the best I can do. With regard to the courthouse, I'm taking, input. Ideally, I would say as a member of the Urban Renewal Commission, this would be an urban renewal project. This is me speaking only. It would be great if we could put on the ballot a request for funds to be used to support someone who might want to redevelop the courthouse, because I think it's going to take that type of funding. So that's something I have not proposed to the rest of the commission. I've talked to one or two of them about it, but I've talked to the city manager. That would be ideal. I think that as long as you all have given us a commitment that you're going to work with us and whatever proposals come in to preserve that plaza for public use, I'm fine with that. I like to start high and come back down. I'm not saying that I'm going to die on my sword for that. The thing is that we want a commitment. We've had a commitment since 2004, when the building was demolished, that this would be open space. And so if it doesn't preclude that, I believe you, and I will take that to the bank and basically tell the community that this is what we're moving forward with, to work in partnership. Because again, as you know, I'm all about partnerships and basically working together with our county government, because we're in lockstep with each other in terms of doing what's best for our city and then the county. So I commit that to you. So if you feel comfortable with this going forward the way it is, and you've committed to making sure that we can get that, I'm good.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader?
Well, I think it's great we're having this conversation. Just a little bit of history, because I've been here so long. Still love the job, though. In any case, I remember when we did Liberty Plaza, colleagues, that was a project that was pulled together with the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce, and it was our administrator, John Mantei, at the time, who was taking their leadership program, and they built that plaza as an opportunity to do something with that space, because I remember the demolishing of the building actually at that point too. So that was an interesting thing. The judges weren't exactly happy about that, because they thought at the time that we would. Yeah, this has been going on for years, folks, okay? Judges weren't happy with that. And one of my judge friends said, well, they gave us a plaza, and I'm like, they wanted a new courthouse. But now that is all taken care of at this point, since 2003, since we've been discussing this. So in any case, here's what I'm hearing from the community, or some of the folks too, and I also am someone who's done a lot of historic preservation work. But the business community at this time, at least is what I'm hearing, is that their concern is that the building, if we don't move forward with something now, or at least get it going, that we'll have a vacant building down there. And I think that to me is what I'm hearing. So I'm trying to figure out a way to split the baby here. I would be willing to go ahead with with the process that we put in place. I don't know how we would work out some way where, maybe that piece of property could be preserved as part of the planning process. I don't know if we don't have direct auspice over that. Wouldn't that be your planning commission and everybody else who wanted to do that? So in other words, even if we move forward with this, okay, and someone steps up to the plate, they're still going to have to really go through all of your planning processes and all of that. So I'm wondering if there's a real hurdle here with this. I'm okay moving forward because I do worry about the downtown. There's just a lot of angst out there, but on the other hand, I want to honor,
Yeah, I wasn't
Things that
asking
we
for,
have.
I wasn't asking for a delay. I just said,
No, but that's-
if we get a commitment that we're going to work on getting the Liberty Plaza as a public open space, we're good. We have more negotiations. Our planning staff would be working with any development person or entity
Right.
to work through, should you select somebody? Should, the partnership select somebody? So there's a lot of steps. I mean, as I explained to one of the DOCA members, I said, even if you issued it tomorrow, it's going to take somebody a great deal of time to put together a proposal that can be available for review. There's a deadline. Then after that, then there's going to have to be a review of that. There's going to have to be some discussion. I mean, it's not happening like that. I mean, having been in the development review business for over 30 years, I believe that the county's interest and our interest are mutually inclusive of each other in terms of we want to go quickly as possible, but we don't want to do anything on a hasty basis because we don't want to redo it. We want to make sure we get it right the first time. And I heard that through our committee process. So we don't have any difference of opinion. I believe I've seen all five of you have said you're interested in working with us on Liberty Plaza. We can work with whoever might do this. So we're good to go.
Okay.
Melissa? Oh, no, I'm good. And Gary, did you have anything regarding this topic?
So I think obviously what the board guides us to do, it sounds like we're going forward then on this request for economic interest, knowing that nothing is tied in stone. We'll obviously work closely with the city and you commissioners on the results. We could certainly do a joint meeting of the Oregon City Commission and the Board of County Commissioners easily. So that's what I'm hearing from you, board.
Okay, and what time is I'm sorry, Chair. I didn't
No,
mean to-
go ahead.
Okay, what time is that meeting today? And
It's
where
at
is it?
4.
It's at 4?
Yeah, at City Hall.
Okay,
It's from 4 to 6.
right, thank you.
So Gary, do we still need a motion on this then?
No, because we're continuing the prior board direction. We just clarified that, so staff is clear.
And Chair, I just wanted to sort of read what, one of the bullets that's in the packet, anyone can look at, it's all posted on the website, but in that, the one bullet I want to read is, a preference for retention of the portion of the site known as Liberty Plaza, either through incorporation into the final transaction or through a lot line adjustment that would separate the plaza. So that just signal any proposal that we as a government or governments are going to weigh heavily on that. And I see this as a partnership. And again, I think a joint meeting with the two commissions would be of value and an opportunity to hear from the stakeholders and the business owners and property owners along Main Street as well. I want to make sure we're doing the best decision. It may be a tough one. I don't know, but
Well,
you know.
I agree. I think that beyond just the downtown people, this is a community resource. So I would be interested in having more folks involved than just Main Street. They are affected, but it affects everybody in this community and, going beyond that. So as long as there's an indication, does it say specifically for a park or just says a lot line adjustment to separate it?
It just has the lot line to separate it.
Well, you might want to just clarify that because we want to separate it for whatever purpose. I mean, is that,
I'm not sure
I'm
for
not
this,
sure that's-
I don't think for this purpose it would
somebody know what that
matter.
means?
It just means that they may not get Liberty Plaza, that's what it means.
Yeah, it's just signal to developer, anyone that's
Right.
making a proposal. And then if they can certainly contact us, right, and our
Sure,
staff
and
to
get
make sure, that, what
clarification.
does this
Absolutely,
mean?
yeah.
But,
Okay, well, we're not in disagreement. I was not coming here to disagree with you. I was just making a point that this is something we've been working on actively since 2004, when the building went down, and now we have the plaza. And we've had more requests for, well, what's going to happen to the open space? I said, the city wants to use this as an open space and have it as a park, so.
I really appreciate you being here today.
No, I
And
appreciate
I also
your-
appreciate the chair giving you the opportunity to
Yes,
come up
and
and speak on this.
Again, thank you for the opportunity. As I understand, this is very important to our community, all of our community, and I'm just here trying to do what I can to fulfill the wishes of our community members.
Great.
So thank you.
We have a
Just
comment
say,
by
but I
Commissioner
just
Schrader.
want to thank you for coming here, Mayor McGriff. We've known each other for years. I also want to appreciate the business community out there because they are looking out for the benefit of that local downtown core and keeping downtown Oregon City kind of this kind of mini Pearl District is the way I look at it down there, where people want to go. Well, not quite like that, I know, but it's.
It's
what I'm
our
saying
living,
is-
it's Oregon City's living room.
Yeah, it's got the feel, it's got the vibe, it's got some vibrant businesses, and I want to make sure that the business community knows that, hearing from them and knowing, again, one of the reasons we need to move forward, we don't want to have that area vacant for a long period of time. And however we manage this, we'll move it through. So I'm okay keeping the board.
Again, thank you, and I should mention that I am the city's representative on the Downtown Oregon City Association Board, so I have a couple of hats that I'm wearing. Thank you very
Great.
much, I appreciate it, and thank you to Nancy.
Thank you both.
All right, thank you.
Gary, what's up
Thank you,
next?
thank you, Chair. With the chair's prior approval, I am adding a topic to your agenda that is not listed, and that is warming center update. As you know, the temperature in Clackamas County has been below freezing over the weekend, and it will continue for the next 8 days. Our staff from Health, Housing, and Human Services wants to give you a quick update on what we're doing to support the public that may need a warming center and answer any questions you may have. There's no decision here, just an informational update. Mary Rumbaugh, Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services. Vahid Brown, Deputy Director of the Housing and Community Development Division of Health, Housing, and Human Services. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. So I did send a summary at end of day last Thursday, just alerting to you that we have been planning. We have an open overnight shelter happening currently. And then Gary did ask that we give you an update today, and so I did ask Vahid to join me because he's a little closer to the current status.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Vahid Brown, as Gary introduced me. Briefly, an update. We have been operating severe weather shelter responses for several weeks. We've had about 17 nights of open shelter. Our primary shelter, overnight shelter, is the Father's Heart Street Ministry location in downtown Oregon City. It has a capacity for 49 individuals. They've been averaging about 45 through this open period. We also have, through the Father's Heart and Ant Farm, the ability, in coordination with the Social Services Division of Health, Housing, and Human Services, to provide additional overnight shelter in area hotels and motels as needed, particularly for vulnerable folks, families with children, and people over 65 with disabilities. Those have been supported by Ant Farm in the rural part of the county. We have motel shelter operations right now in Sandy and Canby, and with the support of the Father's Heart and Love One in the urban part of the county. That is not available through the Coordinated Housing Access or Public Walk-Up. So if folks are seeking access to severe weather shelter, we're directing them through our website and through the Coordinated Housing Access line and through our outreach providers to go to the Father's Heart or to Ant Farm. And we have the capacity to stand up overflow facilities, as we have in the past in the event of a bad storm. But because it's just been cold and dry, we haven't had the need to stand up that capacity. In years past, when we've done that, we did not have an extensive shelter capacity already in place year-round, and now we have about 250 shelter beds operating year-round. So we're in a good place.
Okay. Thanks for all your hard work.
Questions, Commissioners? I just had one, and actually, it was Pat Doris who had mentioned this, and I thought, well, it was kind of a creative idea, but when we're doing the homeless count, one of his questions was, when it's cold like this, are we taking account at that particular time since people are coming inside? Do we do that, or maybe you could talk about that just for a second? I know it's a little bit off track, but I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Sure. Thanks, Chair Roberts. Yeah, we are conducting the biannual point-in-time count of people experiencing homelessness starting this week, actually. And the our outreach providers and some of our volunteers will be supplied with durable goods for cold weather, hand warmers, some warm clothing, gloves, hats, things like that. So those can be distributed to folks who are staying in encampments. But we also do count everyone in a severe weather shelter automatically. So we have kind of the point-in-time count is broken into two components. There's the street count, we call it, and that's outreach to encampments. And then everyone in a shelter bed the night of the count. So the count is conducted over a week, but it's focusing on one night. So throughout that week, our surveyors ask a person, where will you, depending on the day, sleep on the night of January 23rd? And if it was not a place meant for human habitation, we count them as someone experiencing homelessness. Now, we conduct that survey verbally with the folks out in the community. Everyone in a shelter, their information is entered into the homeless management information system when they go into the shelter, and we pull that administrative data as part of the PIT count. So those are those two components. The street, hi, where did you sleep on the 23rd? And then the administrative data from people that we know on the night of the 23rd were in one of our shelters.
Great. No, that was very helpful. Thank you. Glad to hear that, actually. If I hear no other, Commissioner Savas,
Yeah,
I'm
I just
sorry.
want to say, we have one coming up. Hopefully I can participate in. I would encourage my colleagues, if you've never done it, to participate in that. And I wish we would do it every year to keep it as accurate, as informed as possible, but I know that's not always possible. But, Vahid, you said it all. And it's not perfect. We can't count everyone. We know it's an undercount, but we have to have a baseline that's statistically valid. And I think using that one night, where did you sleep? That's a baseline that helps inform, make sure the administration is as accurate as possible. So,
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you both for coming. Do you have anything else? No. All right.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is American Medical Response Northwest Contract Update. Mary,
I can stay.
Mary Rumbaugh will stay. Who's Jane?
Jane.
Jane Veto County Council will give you the update.
Thank you, Gary. Commissioners, this morning, the board gave direction to Health and Human Services to explore the possibility of a continuation of the existing contract with AMR for a 12-month extension. And so that is their direction. They will report back to the board as soon as they have had an opportunity to discuss this and the terms with AMR.
And my colleagues, questions?
yeah, I'll make a comment. I happened to be out in Washington County last week and spoken to some folks, and I was reminded that TVFNR is also one of our providers in Clackamas County, and I do know that there have been expressed interest over the years, from whether or not some fire districts implement what Canby Fire, Malala Fire does, which is transport. So I think looking at at least talking to them, opening some doors and just seeing where they are today, getting an update on that would be of value, to see if there's, opportunities for either more coordination or others stepping into it. As I understand, not really certain, I'm going to look into that some of the Washington County fire districts that are not part of TVFNR did do that or are doing transport. So I think we ought to look at it and explore all our options and also trying to continue our relationship with AMR and keep it as positive as possible.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schrader, comment?
I've lost count of the number of ambulance contracts I've been through. I guess that's the one point, but I think we're trying to move in the right direction, and thank you, Commissioner Savas, for making a difficult subject understandable for all.
So if one of my colleagues would care to make a motion to extend that contact,
Sure. I move we direct staff to look into the particulars of an extension for the AMR contract.
I'll second.
right, so Commissioner Savas has moved to direct staff to look into extending the contract for a year, seconded by Melissa Fireside. And any further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, would you take the poll for us?
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Fireside.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Gary, what's up next?
Thank you, Chair. Next is a request for a intergovernmental agreement between the Housing Authority of Clackamas County and Health, Housing, and Human Services. This would be a consent agenda item, but it's new. That's why we're starting here with you first at issues, to make sure you're comfortable before this comes back to you on a consent agenda. And prior boards have talked about this, but I think it's important to update the new board. So Mary Rumbaugh, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services. Go ahead, please.
Good morning again, Chair and Commissioners. Since the Housing Authority of Clackamas County and the Clackamas County Housing and Community Development Division, what we call HCDD, are two distinct legal entities, a formal IGA is required to facilitate the ongoing collaboration between the two to address the challenges of county housing and homelessness. There have been longstanding agreements. This is not new, but this particular agreement will integrate the funding for supportive housing and broader homelessness services into a unified system, streamlining operations and increasing efficiencies. The agreement introduces a transparent financial mechanism for the Housing and Community Development Division, ensuring the efficient flow of funds, clarified roles and responsibilities, increased accountability, and operational alignment. The agreement, effective through June 30th, 2029, includes an annual review of scope and budgets to ensure ongoing oversight by the county and the Housing Authority boards, and flexibility to adapt to evolving priorities and fiscal conditions.
Thank you, Mary. Any comments by my colleagues?
I do have a question, Chair. So as I look at the packet, I'm looking at what's page 2 of 9, which is the one with the graph, the bar graph showing the forecast with the red dash line. And so it's been updated. Looks like it's been updated to kind of better reflect the current forecast. And what I'm trying to wrap my arms around here is, while those are estimates, right? It looks like, depending on the cut there, so let's say it's, as I understand it, as this thing keeps on taking a life of its own, maybe up to 2030, there could be a cut of X, and after 2025, there could be an additional cut. However, it's not really clear to me in any of this what the additional reduction of support available for supportive housing services would be, would result if some of those dollars left over are used for sticks and bricks housing. So do we have an estimate of that? And again, I know that we don't even know what that carve out is, so I'm putting, it's not an untenable question. Maybe it's a rhetorical question, so I don't want to put you on the spot, Mary. This is not something you created. We're all trying to work through this. So my reservations are with not knowing and having those particulars. So I struggle with this, and it looks to me that this could really amount to, for supportive housing services, be a reduction of somewhere between $20 to $30 million reduction in supportive housing services. And I recall back 2 or 3 years ago when it was mistakenly portrayed that we were cutting 11 million, right? And everyone got upset. I mean, my phone rang and people were upset because they were being told that we did make an $11 million cut when we actually didn't make an $11 million cut. And here we are, something that's possibly double to 3 times that. The blowback of something like this could be pretty intense. So since we entertained changing the letter in a little bit, we saw the letter from the Multnomah County Commission, who took a stand, said stop, pause, basically. And I think the Metro Mayor's letter, which I haven't read yet, but I understand it says the same thing, pause. So I'm really wondering if changing a letter that says, you know, with all these moving pieces and the uncertainty and not having any data or numbers, or that we actually submit a letter that actually asks for a pause. So what's on the table here for us today, really? I mean, what are all the, can we do that and just put this letter aside? I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing this out to my colleagues who, I know they were reluctant to take a position on the last letter. Maybe they know more today. I'm sure they do. I just want to get the conversation started.
So the next item on your issues list is supportive housing services update. But I guess the question is, do you want to hold on this IGA until the SHS is resolved? I'm hearing that perhaps in a question.
Yeah, that was my confusion about what you were stating. Are we talking about the IGA or are we talking about the next item? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I got mixed up, so I apologize. So I must have opened the wrong part, the wrong link here. My bad.
Yeah, I think this one's more of a slam dunk, isn't it?
This really creates the formal relationship between the Housing Authority of Clackamas County and Housing and Community Development
Okay.
Division with the passing through of those funds.
My bad, I jumped ahead.
So, as I understand it, right now, unless there's concerns about moving this forward, advancing this item to the consent agenda, I mean, I'm not hearing that, then this will be on the January 30th business meeting consent agenda, unless there's any comments on that. So
Any
I would
concerns,
say,
commissioners? I'm not hearing any.
yeah. All right, thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. Shannon
Shannon, you
Callahan,
could just stay.
Deputy Director, actually you could stay for the next item. All right, so the next item is supportive housing services update, and potentially for the board to send a letter. That will be for your discussion here shortly. Presenting is Shannon Callahan, who is Division Director of the Housing and Community Development Division of Health, Housing, and Human Services, and Everett Wild, Policy Advisor for the Board of County Commissioners. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Slight preview from Commissioner Savas, so I will jump right into it. On January 7th, this board sent a letter with some policy level requests of Metro regarding the proposed supportive housing services reform that they have been considering for about a year now, since January of 2024, when they first convened a stakeholder table. On Thursday of last week, Metro held a work session that discussed two ordinances. So they were proposing this kind of parallel track two ordinance system where they would have one ordinance that refers the measure to the voters for a potential reform to include potential rate reduction, extension of the sunset, 20 additional years, and some other governance structure changes, and then have a supporting resolution that directs Metro's staff to kind of codify what the voters would be asked to approve into Metro's operating functions. So that includes the structure of the Homeless and Housing Policy Advisory Council, HHPAC as they're calling it, and some other clarifying elements around the measure that they would be asking the voters to approve. At the Thursday work session, there was some questions from Metro councilors around the timing and the amount of tax rate reduction. So they were originally going to have a first hearing of the ordinances this Thursday. They pushed that back a week, so that first hearing will now be on the 30th. And they're having a conversation this Thursday on the tax rate amount. Both of the ordinances, the draft ordinances that they've put forward have a blank, an X, where the tax rate reduction would be. So we don't know, to your question, Commissioner Savas, we don't know what a potential reduction would look like. We don't know who would be affected. Would that be all taxpayers of SHS, or would that be people only over a certain threshold? Would it be a phased approach? They've talked about doing a reduction to 0.9%. And the latest formal proposal we heard was a reduction from 1% currently to 0.9% starting in 2026, and then dropping down to 0.75 in 2030. Would that phased structure still be in place? Would they do it all at once? We don't know yet because they're going to have that conversation on Thursday. So in your packet is a draft letter modified from last week's proposal or last week's letter that you sent. This proposal is more high level. reflects the fact that what we have heard from Metro at their policy session last week, what we have seen in their ordinances, the issues that Clackamas County has had all along really are still there. And so this letter mirrors what Multnomah County sent and what the Metro Mayor's Consortium sent, which is really asking for a pause, more time to figure things out, and acknowledging that there are some changes that Metro can make within the IGA structure that we currently have with them to the governance, to the operations and oversight that don't need voter approval. Again, it's really the rate change and the sunset that would need voter approval. So happy to take your edits or comments on the letter and the timing of sending it.
Questions, colleagues? Commissioner Fireside.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this. So I have a question. There was an audit done of this particular program. And is there a reason that those recommendations weren't moved forward before any of these other items about, expanding uses and, the sunset? What's the thinking behind not incorporating the outcomes of those audits first before?
I believe you're referring to the Metro audit. Shannon, jump in here if you.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioner. Thank you for your question. I think the difference here is because there are only certain things that have to be done with voter approval. And so there are things that are ongoing related to that audit, but they are more administrative in nature as opposed to extending the sunset and changing the rate. Those must be done with voter approval, in Metro's opinion.
I guess if it's administratively, if there's some type of dysfunction, for lack of a better word, wouldn't it make more sense, I guess, to fix those audit concerns first and then make the, make the case that an extension and an expanded uses or changing to a more progressive tax schedule, et cetera? I guess I'm confused because I haven't been able to hear that, so I thought maybe you would be a little bit more dialed in as to why we're sort of putting the cart before the horse.
I've heard Metro councilors say, they said it at the work session last week, that they are looking at what they see as a ticking clock on the vouchers for people who are in the program. I won't speak for H3S, but I think we see it differently. I think we are 4 years into a 10-year measure. The county sees more time on the clock for us to show results, to prove our model is working. Metro sees it differently. They think that the vouchers that people currently have are expiring and that they will have to start working on a transition plan for moving those people into some other form of housing or finding a different funding stream to pay for their voucher sooner than the county thinks that process needs to begin. So I think that is maybe where the disconnect is happening. Metro's clock is shorter than ours.
Okay. Oh, and I just have one other thing. I'm sorry. So as far as the establishment, this was supposed to be services, right, not housing. However, that's kind of where we find ourselves at this point. I guess my overall question for us is, what does matriculation look like from the program, right? Because I think thinking of it as forever and ever and ever, amen, and not as a leg up, an opportunity to go up to a prosperity ladder. And I understand in December that was proposed, that those things within Clackamas County were proposed. But more looking long term, if we are in a situation where this is extended and we do have all of these funds, is there an argument and a case for us to make that, that be incorporated? Is there room for that ask? Or is that totally out of the scope, I guess, for...
Commissioner, that is a great question. The ability for us to do what we're calling move forward programming exists within the current measure. So as you said, we asked the board for approval to start to work on that programming for next year's budget. And that's exactly what we'll be doing, is bringing you a proposal that marries workforce development and other income increasing ways to help move folks forward, hopefully off the program, or at least increase their income, which reduces the amount that we have to pay for their rents. Obviously, some folks, are of a certain age or have a certain disability that what we're really hoping to do is keep them stable. But that is exactly our plan in Clackamas County, and you'll be hearing more from us during the budget process. But we do have that existing authority to do that right now.
And will that matriculation program, will it decrease because of the natural revenue reduction that just happens as you collect taxes, right? I mean, there's a natural deflation that happens of the funds coming in. So is that modeled into that? I guess that's the last part that I wasn't clear on. Like, is that?
So we've been long planning to do this moving forward programming, but it's even more important that we start doing it as we see the revenue decrease. Not just that's coming from whatever Metro may or may not do with this ballot measure, but we did have a rather devastating forecast update that decreased our current year's budget by over $10 million. And so the programming has long been something that we've been wanting to work on, but we believe the time is now to prioritize that so that we can help meet these kind of decreases that we're seeing with the revenue coming in from the Metro SHS tax.
Okay,
That answer your question?
Yes, that was perfect. That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks. Gary, I think Commissioner
Commissioner
West.
West would like to speak, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Fireside. You bring up fantastic questions. They're the right questions, and I'm glad you did that. Been in conversations with President Peterson since being here in DC about some of these changes and got an update from her. The tax that they're looking at doing is indexing it where the bulk of the taxes will be paid if your income is more than $400,000. If you're at the lower level of that income, for the SHS tax, that rate would be reduced. I asked President Peterson, I said, hey, do you have any idea how this impacts revenue? They said, we have absolutely no idea how this impacts revenue, so we are awaiting that information. I think you alluded to that, Everett, in your comments. Metro does have pretty broad administrative authority and a lot of the things that they could do or the fixes that they could make. There's also conversations, I think, on the table right now. The 20-year extension is still on the table, but there are conversations actually starting to come up because the cities and the counties are really opposed to the 20 years. That might be a negotiating point too later down the road. Metro's not looking to go onto the May ballot now this spring because of the pushback and the concerns. If they do, it may be maybe November, the November ballot, but still in an election year. But that's being looked at, that's being potentially changed too. So there's a lot of things currently in flux. Here in DC, I had conversations with Mayor Lisa Beatty out of Beaverton and some continuous conversations with who's helping head up the cities as Mayor Joe Buck in Lake Oswego. There's not a lot of daylight between the counties and the cities on how this is progressing and moving forward. So I'm okay personally with continuing to sing from the same songbook and join in with a letter similar to what Metro and the cities have already put out. I think the last letter we did also kind of did the same thing. It was just more detailed, so I don't know if we need another letter, but anything that still looks like we're galvanized and moving in the same direction, I believe is really helpful for this. But yeah, we're staying closely watching this. I'll be engaged also moving forward, but I just wanted to give kind of an update to the board on how the recent conversations are going.
Great. Thanks, Commissioner West. That's helpful. And Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner West. I appreciate that. And I also want to give a shout out to Commissioner Fireside because I think when you're talking about matriculation, that's a good thing because moving people out of poverty, it's a lever for moving people from poverty to prosperity. And that is something that we absolutely agree with. But what I would say is I don't think there's ever going to be a permanent solution. I think one of our roles long-term is going to have to continue that kind of work. So even though people are matriculating, I would say the chances that there are just going to be more people that need it is really still there. And so I think that's why we want to have the long-term planning, so we actually have these resources and these strategies in place long-term. And for me, this particular measure is putting that in jeopardy. I think we should take a look at the initial years we've looked at and, again, continue to audit and document our successes. One of the things that my personal viewpoint is, too, this has been, from my perspective, a scope creep on the top of Metro. Not that I don't believe in regional governance, but remember, Metro was founded initially for land use planning and transportation pieces. The housing came later in that, and one of our issues, colleagues, is that we have the oldest housing authority in the state of Oregon, okay, 1937. And we have been progressively, through all the years I've been here, maintaining housing, creating new housing. We've done a phenomenal job recently increasing density, looking at the land that we had available and doing it for veterans. That was something Commissioner Savas really jumped into. So I said once to Metro, if it's not broke, what are you trying to fix here? And they've had to come up to speed on how to do housing, whereas counties, it's been their primary fundamental roles, not just here, but across the nation. So that's been a little personal disturbing to me, because the expertise is there, the staff is there, and also the way that we have cooperated with our cities as well in getting them, funneling them dollars, I think has been absolutely admirable and productive, and very worthwhile continuing. And I know that our cities feel the same way about us. So let's continue discussions. I'd like to see this delayed until November, or have continued conversations about it. So.
Thank you, Martha. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, just to build on the conversation, I said what I said earlier. My fat thumb moved me along the agenda a little faster than I thought. I apologize again. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces here, and I think what I heard when we adopted the implementation plan was, yeah, we'll try it and we can come back and change it. I think a lot of us anticipated we would change the implementation plan because I felt it didn't cover enough. I felt that we needed to have some flexibility in there. And I also looked at it as a companion piece, being the Metro Housing Bond, as two different things, but companion. They were designed to kind of work together to some degree. What the Metro Auditor actually said back then, and what the Metro Auditor is saying today, I have actually confidence, in some of his findings, both before and after. But what has been really pointed out to me, or highlighted, is that the forecasting and the way that was all done has got us in this position we are today. And I think had some of our basic revenue collection questions been answered, particularly how much of the collections is back taxes and how much of it is actually based on today's payroll, would have prevented this whole thing from happening, because Metro moved forward on the premise that we're over collecting. We sit here today saying, whoops, maybe we're not over collecting, right? At the same token is when this measure was put out, it was under the premise that in 10 years we would solve homelessness, or at least chronic homelessness, or whoever wants to basically carve out what that actually meant. But I think there was the anticipation that people would be rolling off the need for supportive housing services, and then maybe, no one projected this, but then maybe one could say that either you don't need to collect it anymore, or the need for the dollars would decline. So are we in a position to say how much are we reducing homelessness, and what is that forecast for people going back to work and living a normal life and being successful, or are we more trending the other way, realizing that more people will fall into homelessness and the problem's going to get worse? We don't know that, right? So it seems to me that flexibility and having something in, if there is a measure, and again, I don't think we're even close to putting a measure on the ballot that we can all agree on, but if there is a measure, I think we need to have some kind of a 5-year reset in there, built in. If you're going to extend it for a period of time, maybe there's a reset, right? We could say, hey, upon conditions today, and an obligation actually to come back and making sure we're successful. I go back to that accountability measures not being really in there, and that 30 years from now, no one elected today will probably be in office. So therefore, that's not responsible to the voters. So all to say, getting back to the letter, whether or not we need one, I think that's a good question. If we did move forward this letter, in that last paragraph, maybe we could add, or that larger paragraph, it says postpone, but I don't know if it needs to be, I don't say stronger, but more clear that please pause until we can have a regional discussion. And I know that says that there, but I think it needs to be a clear closing statement of what we're asking for. Whether that could be the last sentence or whatnot, but that's the only tweak if we do move forward with the letter. But I want to make sure at this point that all of our colleagues are on board to signing something similar to what Multnomah County Commission did.
Thank you, Gary.
Commissioner West, yes.
Thank you. I think another thing that we have to be talking about that's been coming up is the data sharing agreement. We haven't really got an update from staff, but that is something that we need to know if we're ready and willing to do. Where's our staff on that? Are we okay with the agreement that's been worked on? A lot of the questions that you're asking, Commissioner Savas, are due to the lack of data. And it's hard to go to the voters. It's hard to know where we're at and where we should be going because the data is just flat out missing, which is really unexcusable. But we do have to get to a point where we're able to start reporting and being accurate about where we're at and where we're going. And so I think part of that is understanding the data agreement between Metro. I think the other two counties may be further apart than we are, but maybe there's a way we can lead in that and get it done so we can just, have that information if so necessary.
Thank you, Commissioner West. I think right now we're kind of at a point where if someone's interested in perhaps a motion to approve the letter, is kind of where we're at.
Well, I move we approve the letter as written.
And is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, discussion?
I'd like just to make a friendly amendment that we strengthen the closing statement in the letter to say that we would like to pause and have a regional make it a very, summarize into one sentence, a closing statement. I'm not here to wordsmith it now, but something that basically says we want to have a regional discussion amongst, like you already said in the letter, but closing statement, we have a regional discussion, so therefore we're asking to pause, asking you to pause on your proposal to put on the ballot in May.
Chair, I'll accept that amendment. Okay.
All right.
I second will also be okay with it, and then I have a point during discussion when we're back there.
Okay.
Okay, so stepping back, Commissioner Schrader has moved to direct staff to letter to Metro for inclusion in the public records for January 23rd, 2025 Metro hearing. Commissioner West second that, and the further discussion was an amendment to that by Commissioner Savas that basically, if I understand this correctly, is strengthens the letter by placing a pause and until there's regional discussion, to something to that effect. And if I got that correctly,
Close enough?
getting the nod, I'll turn to the clerk and do a poll.
So I'm sorry, you don't need an amendment to the motion because the original motion maker, Commissioner Schrader, has accepted that. So are you ready to vote on the actual main motion?
Do we want?
Or do you want more discussion?
Any more discussion?
Not from me. Did Commissioner?
Yeah, so I didn't make a motion, I just asked for an amendment. The amendment's been okayed.
It's been okayed.
By the motion maker and the second.
She
So
amended it,
therefore,
yes.
it's
So we
a
don't have
vote
to-
on the overall question.
Correct. If you're ready, that's the main motion then.
Yes.
I'm ready.
Do you want to talk about who's signing the letter? Because will that impact if you do a letter? Are you all five going to sign it, or just Chair Roberts on behalf of the board?
I think it'd be a great idea to do what Multnomah County did, and that's all 5 commissioners sign it. If we all vote yes, then we all sign it.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. All right, so I think we are ready to call a poll, clerk.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Fireside,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. Wow, 5-0. Fantastic.
Thank you. We will get this letter finalized with all 5 of your signatures, and as Metro moves forward into the public hearings process, we'll keep you updated on opportunities for future letters or testimony in person or other ways to stay involved. Thank you.
All right, Gary, what's up next?
Thank you, Chair. Next is board meeting dates. I'm bringing this topic before you, board, to seek clarity for staff on what days of the week and times of the day would you like to meet as a board? You've sort of talked about this a little bit so far, but I'm asking your direction, please, on formally when you'd like to meet. Prior boards have met different times, different days. Some boards have met all day Tuesdays from approximately 8:30 a.m. to 3 to 4 p.m. all day, and then having Wednesdays as a carryover day in case there's our topics to add, and you've done land use hearings on Wednesdays. And then Thursdays, your business meetings at 10 a.m. The most recent board decided to meet only in the mornings, Tuesday and Wednesday mornings, for policy sessions and work sessions, no afternoons, and then Thursday morning business meetings. I'm seeking clarity on what you'd like to do. I'll make a recommendation for you to start the conversation to go back to a single day of business, but I would propose a single day for everything, including land use hearings, and you just choose what day that is, Tuesday or Wednesdays, and maintain your Thursday morning business meetings. In my opinion, that gives you more time to be out and about in the community and meeting with constituents. It gives staff time to implement your direction if we know we're meeting a single day for everything and then business meetings on Thursdays. Tuesdays or Wednesdays, it doesn't really matter. I did check the board calendars. Commissioner Savas and Commissioner Schrader, once a month, you would have a conflict if it was all day Wednesdays, but we could accommodate that. But totally up to the board. So seeking direction, commissioners, if you agree to a full day, and if so, which day of the week?
Thoughts, commissioners?
Well, I'll jump in and just
Savas,
say.
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Yeah, I'll
Commissioner
just jump
Savas.
in and just say that having space between Tuesday or 2 days back to back, having some space in between gives us some time to tool up and staff to answer questions. So, and being that we already have basically on our scheduling pretty well a premise of where Tuesdays has been that day, I lean to Tuesday, and giving us the space again for staff and ourselves to tool up for the next big day, which would be Thursday.
Okay,
Commissioner Schrader?
fine with that.
Yes, sir. I might just throw out my thoughts on this is, I would prefer Wednesday and Thursday to kind of get that business done so that I could kind of schedule my days out in the community. I know that I've talked to Gary about that, and would that be a kind of an imposition for staff, and felt like it was workable. And I guess I'd ask you to consider that as an option too, you know. And the other thing I would just say too is that once we can try some of these and see if it works. I mean, our goal is to be really as efficient as possible and make good use of all our time. And really, that's what my hope and goal is to make sure that we're just doing the very best with the time that we're allotted. So.
Listen, I really don't have any preference. I'll adjust to anything the group wants to do. It's fine with me.
Okay. Gary?
Yeah, so yes, staff can make it work Wednesdays or Tuesdays, either day. And then Commissioner West has his hand raised.
Commissioner West?
I can be pretty flexible on what the board decides. I mean, right now, it's a little conflicting to do Wednesdays for me with still working at the cardiology unit at OHSU. But I can make that shift. It's something that the board shouldn't necessarily consider my nursing schedule for the board schedule. But if I had a preference, I like the Tuesday, Thursday kind of talk. But Chair, it's your prerogative to set this agenda, so I would have totally deferred to you as the chair. And I appreciate you coming and bringing ideas to us and let us collaborate with you on like what might be the best option on how to do it. So I'm open to whatever. My preference is Tuesday, Thursday, but no skin off my nose if the board goes another way.
Comments? What would you prefer, Melissa?
It would just be helpful for me to know, because I have childcare, so, right, I'm the one with the kiddo, so it would just be helpful for me to know that, like, yes, we are going to commit to doing Tuesdays or we're going to commit for Wednesday. I just think for continuity of his life and knowing that I'm gonna be there for him and all of that, that would just be helpful. I like back-to-back days, because then it's kind of over and I can set my schedule, but again, I am flexible as long as it's just consistent, I guess is my ask, please.
All right. Commissioner Savas?
Oh, first of all, I'm actually grateful that we're looking at having one full day. I mean, that'd be an improvement and a dedicated day, and I think it makes sense economically to have our staff focus. So kudos to the fact that we're all willing to do that and share bringing that forward. It's like people ask me, well, why don't you join, the Rotary? Well, I'm the kind of person, I want to be there, right? I mean, I want to make sure if I make a commitment, I can show up. I know absences are accepted, but the work we're doing regionally, and some of those meetings I have on Wednesday morning I'd be absent, and that would just bug me a little bit because county stuff is first, but the same token is some of our commitments that we got on Wednesday, sometimes in the morning, would mean at least once a month, I'd be absent for part of that.
Would you be able to be flexible, Chair, then? and just-
Yeah, we could try it. We could try the Tuesdays, Thursday.
Okay, so then if it's not working for you, we can.
Yeah, and, yeah, we could give that a try. I was going to ask you if you would mind trying it, but it sounds like you're kind of pretty set on the Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, is it possible? I mean, this might be, I don't know when you thought of it. What if we wanted back-to-back? Let's say there's a preference to have back-to-back, to do it Tuesday, Wednesday, have the business meeting on Wednesday.
So I advise Chair Roberts not to change your business meeting date because it's been this, not that you can't do something different, it's been the same business meeting date for 40 years. The public knows 10 a.m. on Thursdays is when the Clackamas County Commissioners meet. So that'd be a bigger change in my opinion, but we certainly could do that if you want to move the business meetings to Wednesdays.
Yeah, the executive session part is that we typically do, so the proposal is, let's just say it's Wednesdays. The proposal will be executive session, land use hearings, and issues, and work sessions.
Yes.
So I guess my issue is I would definitely miss the executive sessions. That would be because of the timing of my Wednesday morning commitment.
Okay.
But we could start.
Which is at least once a month.
Once a month, with Jane's approval, we could start exec session at 9 a.m. once a month to accommodate your schedule and just make sure the agenda topics would meet that time frame.
Well, drive time, so a little bit later, yeah.
It sounds like we could accommodate it, right?
We would make it work.
Yep. You up to trying it?
If we can move to one, not that we can do everything. I don't think we can have a productive week if we try to do everything in one day, but just getting back to working a full day is an improvement, however it's done. I want to say to me, that's the win, is having a full day of work sessions. Even, like Gary said, even when we did have one day, we have rollover into Wednesdays, which would either be land use hearings and/or sometimes work sessions. So if we don't do that, we might have, just as long as we keep Tuesdays open but that's awkward because you're not, you don't have the opportunity you're rolling into a next week versus a next day. Just experience of being here this long. Sometimes you can't do it in 2 days. Sometimes it's 2.5 or 3.
All right, this has been a fun discussion, let me tell you. I guess right
Whatever
now
you
what we'll
guys
do is
decide.
we'll go with the Tuesday, Thursday for right now. And I would just say at some point to be able to, let's try this out, see how efficient it works, and if we might entertain a different schedule, if we feel like we can be more efficient or kind of do it. So right now, we'll go with Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay, understood. Thank you. We'll start that as soon as next week. We'll get things scheduled. All right, thank you. Next topic, board recess dates. There's a memo in your packet. I'm seeking your discussion and potential approval of setting the board's recess dates for the entire calendar year. There are quite a few here, which is what the past board has done for the last 2 years. You do not have to accept these options, but I want to present them to you as options. So what this does, most of these recess dates are around a holiday, which is a shorter week for you anyway. And so the idea is this would give you a recess from board meetings. That doesn't mean you stop your work as a commissioner. You're still out and about in the community and doing your constituent meetings and so forth, but you would not have board meetings during these proposed recess weeks. And they are President's Day week, February 17th to 20th. There happens to also be 3 of you attending the National Association of Counties Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C., which would be March 3rd through 5th. That's a Thursday through a Tuesday. Next would be spring break, March 24th through 27th. Independence Day week, June 30th through July 4th. Your traditional August recess, which is 2 weeks in August, August 18th through Labor Day, September 2nd. Thanksgiving week, November 24th through 27th, and then the traditional 2-week holiday break in December, which would be December 22nd through January 2nd, 2026. So this is a proposal for your discussion. Now, you may be thinking, well, that's a lot of time off, and I would say, no, it's not, because first, you don't earn vacation days, commissioners. You don't. And you deserve time off too, and these are times of the year when there's a holiday or spring break or, holidays in August. So you deserve a break too. This also respectfully gives staff time to implement your direction. And we love you, commissioners. You ask a lot of us, and we need time to implement the things you've asked us to do. So again, it's not that you're not working, you're just taking recess from your board meeting dates. I'm open, would welcome your discussion about this, if you agree to these dates, if it's too much, too little. But again, seeking your guidance if you approve these dates or whatever combination you approve so that we can have clarity moving forward, please. Thank you.
Comments, commissioners?
Looks good to me. And Gary, I just have to say, are you implying that we meddle as commissioners? That's okay, don't
No,
answer
no, not
that.
at all. Not at all.
I'm only kidding. Okay.
All right, I appear to be getting some head nods.
I would seek a motion on this one, though,
Oh, you
Chair,
would?
please,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Martha, if you'd entertain a
Yeah,
motion.
I move we accept the breaks as articulated by, I can't call you Commissioner Smith, but I can call.
Just call me Gary. I'm just
Administrator
Gary, yeah.
Gary has put forward for us to adopt, and will give us some certainty as to, yeah. So,
Right, it's motions made by Commissioner Schrader to adopt the scheduled calendar dates as reflected in the memorandum attached that would be February 17th through the 20th, March 3rd through the 5th, March 24th through 27th, June 30th through July 3rd, August 18th through September 2nd, November 24th through 27th, December 22nd through January 1st, and seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Is there any discussion?
Commissioner West has his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not see that. Commissioner West.
We can't hear you, Commissioner. Commissioner, we cannot hear you. You are unmuted, but we cannot hear you. Still can't hear you. Sorry, Commissioner, we cannot hear you. Still can't hear you. Don't know what to say. You're unmuted. We do not hear you. If you want to text me, perhaps, I can read what you would like the board to know. Oh, he can hear us, but we cannot hear you, Commissioner. Nothing's coming through. If you want to text me something, Commissioner, I can read it for you. All right, we still cannot hear Commissioner West. Was NACO, the Commissioner West is asking, do you want to consider the National Association of Counties Annual Conference in July as a recess date? I would suggest you don't need to make that decision today, but if it does end up 3 of you are going, obviously, you take a recess week of then too. It'd be later in July for the National Association of Counties Annual Conference. So if that's okay, Commissioner West, I would say let's hold on that for a few months until we know how many commissioners are attending. And Commissioner West says, okay, all right.
Great. Good point, Commissioner West. So I think right now we've had discussion and time to call a poll.
Commissioner West?
All right, Commissioner, can you text me your vote, please?
less
Because we
technology.
cannot hear you. He's right. He says yes.
Commissioner Fireside?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Sure, I'll try it.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Gary, what is
Thank you,
next?
Commissioners. We will get that on your calendars. Next, review of your business meeting agenda this Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, 10 a.m. With Chair Roberts' approval, you will have public communication at the start of your agenda. You have a pretty lengthy consent agenda, so we're doing this process differently. Again, there's no presentation, so if you have any questions on any consent agenda item, would you please let me or your policy advisor know before Thursday so we can answer that for you. Otherwise, staff will be in the room if you choose to pull an item but you will then vote on it still separately at the business meeting. You'll also be meeting as the development agency to do a consent agenda for that. That is your agenda for Thursday. Again, any questions, please let me know prior to Thursday. Next is advisory board and commission appointments. Andrew, go ahead, please.
The Developmental Disabilities Council, staffed by the Health, Housing, and Human Services Department, currently has 11 openings on their commission due to term expirations and vacant positions not previously filled. 18 total members are allowed with 3-year terms. Recruitment for 5 positions opened to the public in April of 2024 and closed in June of 2024. 5 new applications were received and 4 are recommended for appointment. There is also 1 incumbent seeking reappointment. The recommendations are as follows. Ann Wilkinson to a first term ending 2027. Bruce Bruns to a first term ending 2027. Christina Goff to a first term ending 2027. Lyra Fox to a first term ending 2027. And Lisa Ledson to a second term ending 2027. The board could select other candidates or require further recruitment. Mr. Chair.
Commissioners, may I have a motion?
Yeah, Chair, I move we appoint the slate of recommended appointees to the Development Disabilities Council.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved to approve the appointment of Ann Wilkerson, Bruce Burns, Christine Goff, Lyra Fox, and Lisa Ledson to the Development Disabilities Council, and Commissioner Fireside has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, would you call a poll?
Commissioner West.
So online, he has texted me yes.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Fireside.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0. And next, we're on to Commissioner communication updates, and Commissioner Schrader.
Oh, okay, thank you for that. Well, colleagues, I have filed all the paperwork at the national level to throw my name in the ring for the National Association of Counties' second VP. I'm going to try and arrange this so it isn't going to be conflicting with the work that we do here together. This is kind of a bold move for me. People ask why I'm doing it, and it's largely because after all the years that I've worked here, I believe that counties are really the best level of government out there, and that being part of a national organization that looks after our priorities is really a fantastic thing. And I would like to use my time and experience that I've garnered through the years doing this at Clackamas County to maybe give something back to the larger organization that I have been privileged to participate in. So thank you for that. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I hope it's good, but time will tell. So thank you, and
Thank you.
wish me luck, folks. That's all.
Good luck, Martha. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, just a little bit of an update. As you all know, I think one of the main emphasis the state legislatures will be working on will be a transportation package, and that has been keeping us in the transportation world really busy, trying to prepare things and work out issues and getting alignment where we can. It's been indicated by virtue of the meeting last Thursday I had that was held, basically a briefing or update from the Joint Committee on Transportation. In that meeting was shared that they are going to move the Joint Committee on Transportation is going to move their meetings and hearings to Mondays and Tuesdays, which is actually accommodate our schedule a little bit better because it used to be on Fridays, and that was a strain on a number of people apparently. But the fact that even having hearings this round is an improvement because last cycle or two, my complaint has been that they haven't had any public opportunities for comment and work sessions like they did before. So that's an improvement, and they also indicated that members of these work groups will be either invited and perhaps even requested to join comment perhaps on certain proposals as this package takes shape. So I guess what I'm kind of giving you all a heads up on is that if we have an inclination to know what that may be, I want to make sure I represent this board. And so I think there might be some proposals in there that might, for example, road user charge. Initially, that was launched as Orgo, and the concept was to keep everything legal, not legal, but equal, that if people who joined the Orgo program would be able to balance it out. So there's no financial impact, essentially replacing gas tax with a per mile road user charge. So equitably, if that's done, most people would, it'd be revenue neutral, so to speak, in the sense that it wouldn't generate any revenue and it wouldn't really harm families or be any deep tax. But there is a significant inflation and financial impacts that all departments are realizing, most especially in this context, transportation. And so they're all looking to kind of how do we provide the service or the services with declining revenue or buying power, if you will. So there'll be proposals that will raise money, and I don't know what those are going to be exactly. And tolling may or may not be on the table. We got our review. It looks like tolling was not popular with the work group members, so maybe that's not going to be on the table, which would be good news. But things like either road user charge or other fees. So I want to make sure that we have, and our staff will work with you to bring some of these questions forward as they take shape, and maybe work sessions to tell you what they are, in more detail. So I'll speak to our transportation staff and also kind of give you a sense of what's taking place regionally and statewide. I did meet with one of the OTC commissioners, the newest one, last Friday, first of a couple of meetings at least that we're going to have to fill him in on some of the challenges we have in Clackamas County. He's a county commissioner in Deschutes County, he's relatively new to the OTC, so he's kind of trying to show him what the region challenges are in the region and so forth. And a number of other people I talked to, even in Washington County Thursday evening. There's a lot of interest right now and a new slate. I won't say completely new, but a number of new members to the Joint Committee on Transportation. So we'll have a lot on our plate, but I want to make sure we have runway. So there'll be probably, my guess is, at least a few work sessions in which we get you all informed. And feel free to reach out with me if you think you have something on your mind now. I'm happy to either answer the question or maybe we have staff here that can probably do that as well, but I can maybe give you a regional perspective that maybe our staff may not have. So I just want to avail myself to all of you. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you. Commissioner West, I'm not sure if he got his phone working better, did he?
Commissioner West, are you able to speak to us? You're on mute. I don't see him unmuting, so.
Oh, right. Commissioner Fireside.
Thank you. So last week I had the opportunity to go up to the mountain and interact with some of our constituents up there and really talk about short-term rentals, which is going to be sunsetting. So I'm hoping Commissioner Savas and I can sit down and I can pick his brain because I think he put together a really fantastic proposal that was a little watered down, for lack of a better word, but I'd really like to discuss that more with you and sort of share with you what people have told me about that. Otherwise I will have more to share on Thursday, so I'll yield back, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And the only thing I have to add is I was at AOC, and it's a county college, and met a lot of colleagues from around the state. Was really beneficial. I will just say one of the things that I kind of valued is the topic surrounding emergency management. And whether it's forest fires or preparation for earthquakes, and you could tell different leaders across the state really had problems with battling their forest fires, devastating loss in cattle. And so, excuse me, I'm a big proponent of prepare, 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 and I know we're going to have more kind of updates on emergency management, and there are also funding dollars by the state, and really trying to make sure that we as a county are really prepared for the next unfortunate thing will hit us one time or another, but obviously California is another wake-up call for all of us. And so that's all I had to say, other than it was a great opportunity to meet commissioners and seeing that they have a lot of passion around the same issues that we're focused on, and that's housing, addiction, and mental illness. So with that being said, if there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned.